Hey there, this is Jake from Pigeon Forge. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to install and set up VirtualBox on your Windows PC. These steps should apply to installing on Linux and other operating systems, but today we're going to focus on Windows. And for us to go through this process, I'm actually going to use a Windows 11 virtual machine on the machine that I currently have. We're going to install it on that virtual machine, so it's going to be VirtualBox within a virtual machine on my host machine. So let's go ahead and head over to my Windows 11 guest machine, which I was able to set up for free. Windows allows you a trial period to download one of these client appliances, and let's set it up. Okay, so here we are over in our Windows 11 development machine. It's a pretty clean install. I've messed with it a little bit, but it's essentially a pretty clean install. So in order to get VirtualBox, we're going to go to, let's say we'll use Edge, and we can search for Oracle VirtualBox, and that's the first hit here. Welcome to VirtualBox. Download VirtualBox 6.1. Just click on that link, and here we have various options: Windows hosts, OS X hosts, Linux distributions, etc. We are going to use a Windows host. Click on that, and it has started downloading our application. It is 103 megabytes, downloaded fairly quickly. And now we can open it. We are going to click Next. And you could leave most of these settings to the default if you would like. You can play around with them if you really want to, but we're going to leave it default for now. Hit Next. And leave all of that default. Hit Next. Now you're going to get this warning about network interfaces. And the reason you get this warning is that in order for VirtualBox to function properly, it needs to have access to your network adapters. And so it's going to reset them temporarily so that you can configure your virtual machines to use your network hardware on your host machine. So just go ahead and hit yes. And then we click Install. And we say yes. And we hit Finish, and it will automatically launch it for us. We can now close the browser. And here is our Oracle VirtualBox software. I'll give you a quick overview, but we've essentially installed it, and so we're kind of done as far as the installation goes. Here, it's a very simple interface. You have your preferences. This is where you can set your default machine folder. This is where your virtual machines by default will be stored. On my regular host machine, I have a dedicated hard drive for installing these virtual hosts. Actually, it's shared with a cache drive that I have, but it's a drive that I'm willing to let go of. It's a drive that I'm willing to delete and wipe, and it's somewhat isolated from my other drives. It just makes it easier for me because these virtual machines can eventually start taking up a lot of space if you're not paying attention. So this is where you can set that. You can set inputs and other things, network settings, but that's beyond the scope of this tutorial. In order to set up a VirtualBox, you can do it one of a couple ways. You can either use what they call an appliance, which is a .ova file, and that's very convenient. In the case of Kali Linux, that's probably the best way to install it. You can download this OVA file, and it comes pre-configured for VirtualBox, and it is the easiest, quickest way to do it. You can also add a new virtual machine. Now this is going to be a little bit more involved, and this requires you to essentially establish a blank virtual machine. It would be like having a brand new computer without any operating system installed, and then you would load that machine and you would push an ISO image to that machine. And the ISO image is the installation media. You push it to that machine and you install it that way. This is probably the way you would need to go if you were installing CentOS or Red Hat Linux, or potentially some other distribution of Linux, or maybe you have a Windows 7 CD laying around for installation. You may want to do it that way, but that's what that is. And then add is if you have a virtual machine that you've saved off, you can add that this way. But again, normally you're going to click on Import or New. I have really taken a liking to using Import and just using the OVA files because it's set up and configured properly for whatever that device is. I do not have any OVA files downloaded on this computer. Again, this is just a fresh virtual machine of Windows 11 that's running. But let's go ahead and navigate to, say, Kali Linux 2021 OVA. let's go to Get Kali. You want to make sure you get it from Kali Linux. Now, when you're at on the Kali Linux webpage, you have a few options. Bare metal is going to be if you are downloading an ISO image and you're installing it on a like an old laptop or an old PC that you have sitting around somewhere, or you can get it on a virtual machine, and that's where you would download. And I could click on VirtualBox here, and it's going to start downloading, and you will see that this is a pretty large file. It's 3.9 gigabytes. It is Kali Linux .OVA. That is going to be the OVA file. And so once that's finished downloading, all we need to do then is to import that into VirtualBox, and we'll be up and running. I'm going to cancel that though. Okay, so that was a quick tutorial on how to download and install VirtualBox. A very simple process. Stay tuned because we will soon be talking about how to install Kali Linux 2021 as a virtual machine in VirtualBox. Thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.